All right. Today I am joined here by former Grand Canyon coach and current Odense Volleyball coach over in Denmark, Matthew August. Coach August, thank you so much for joining me. So glad to have you on. There's a lot we can talk about, both international and here, volleyball home here in America. But let's start with your journey from Grand Canyon, rest in
Yeah.
peace, to Denmark, with Odense Volleyball. What was
Yeah.
that like?
Obviously, with Grand Canyon, I mean, it was a tough loss, I think, just for the whole volleyball community. But, I joined that team, and I was a part of that team for the best 2 years of program history. To be a part of that group and with with Coach Worley and Coach Delamico was an amazing experience. Yeah, after I left. I took the head coaching job at NAIA program last season, and I'm very thankful I was able to get that experience underneath my belt as a head coach. It was obviously very different, but still staying in Arizona, I was still local, so I still got to keep up with everybody, and that wasn't, to be completely honest, just wasn't the fit for me. I wanted to obviously have the head coaching pedigree and experience on my resume, but just mentally, I think I was done a place and it wasn't for me. So took a step away. And yeah, how I got to Denmark was not on the bingo card, I think, for the year, for my life at this point. Obviously, after being in the college scene, um, I had a buddy who I played with in Czech Republic when I was playing professionally that is now an agent, and I've given him some GCU guys in the past after they graduated. And then he got more Americans from the other GCU guys that, guys needed an agent to go overseas. So we've been in contact since I stopped playing. So that was, 5 years ago that we've stayed in touch. And I want to say maybe around like March or April of this past year, I reached out to him saying like, hey, this is an idea that I've had in my head for a little bit, not knowing the protocol and the understandings of it all, but just keep an ear out. Obviously, the season doesn't end until April, May, so there's nothing I was going to hear during that time. And he's like, yeah, absolutely, I'll keep an ear out. And one of his clients was the coach here last year, and he moved on, so he knew that they needed a another coach, and so he recommended me and got in contact with the manager of the club and had two really good conversations, and here I am.
Here you are. Well, the coaching journey, I know for sure it's nothing linear, right? There's no
No.
real expectations. You just go where you're needed, where you have that opportunity. But your first season now, 1 year as a head coach, now in Denmark. What is there a world where you want to come back to the States, come back to the NCAA, come back coach these American kids?
Yeah, I mean, there's always definitely that in the back of my mind. I think coming here, I wanted a different scenery and just a different type of volleyball and enjoying traveling while I'm young. Like I'm still 28 years old. Like I'm still a young guy. The bald head may not look like it, but I'm still 28. Um, no, of course, I think obviously family aspect wise, I knew this was going to be tough. Leaving my family again after doing it for a couple seasons playing, but I'm at a point in my life where I wanted something different, and this is something that I wanted to do. But yeah, definitely at some point, I would love to come back and um, coach the NCAA, whether it be men's and women's. Obviously, we'll see where it goes, but I always have a love for the men's side. I think
Yeah,
it's obviously, and as we you talk about all the time, and where it is going right now, I think it obviously is growing, but it needs more help at the same time. So
for sure.
obviously, definitely want to come back at some point.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned only 28. We were
Yeah,
talking before, you're coaching guys that are older than you. What's that
yeah.
been like being able to be in a gym with kids of 17, barely out of high school technically if we're in America, and
Mhm.
guys that have been doing this for 10 plus years. What's that adjustment been like for you?
I really didn't think about it so much just because I think I've been around this game a long time, and obviously so have they. So we're taking this as a collaborative experience. I think there was always already a mutual respect, knowing that they have, I'm not coming in here and trying to change how they play. They've been playing for, for a long time. And, one of our, our captain, he's 31 years old. He's probably the best opposite in this league. Definitely has the talents to take it further. Just never wanted to, he was a homebody guy and stayed here, but he has an incredible amount of experience that I'm also learning from.
Mm.
And he's a very coachable um, man. He's coachable, so he's taking my resume, my CV, and my experience to heart. And we're definitely taking this as a collaborative experience for everyone. Like you said, yeah, 17 is my youngest, and 33 is my oldest. And it's funny when the 33-year-old, he's a middle, he's taller than me, and he's older than me. So it's like but it's different. We have the mutual respect for each other
Right.
to know that we're coming from a good place, but also just new experiences and new ways of playing volleyball. We're trying to just be the best we can be, and they've taken a really good, liking to me and a good respect, approach. And I do the same thing, and it's been fun. It's been a learning curve for sure.
Bet. Bet. It helps that
Yeah.
they all speak English though, right?
Oh, 1000%. Like that's the best part about Denmark, I would say. And I think why it's such a good um, starting league for a lot of guys coming out of the NCAA is it's tough playing overseas, and it's tough going to maybe a Eastern European country where the volleyball is pretty good, but the life outside of that is pretty tough. And then the English side of things and the language barrier. Um, Denmark is known for being really strong in English everywhere on all of Denmark, even the small towns. Um, so it's really comfortable to come over here, still being outside of your comfort zone, being away from home and in Europe, but definitely a comfort level to know that it's not going to be so much of an issue,
Yeah.
unlike
Yeah.
some other places.
No. So what's been in just this short amount of time? What it's been like 3, 4 months since you've made it over there?
Technically, not even 2 months. I got here August 8th.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah. So
yeah.
not a lot of time, but
Mm-mm.
I feel like you said travel while you're young. What's been your favorite experience so far since moving over there?
I think really it's, maybe a little bit like selfish, but just really getting time to enjoy my life just by myself.
Mm,
I think from the new coach's perspective, it's when you're a player, you go over and it's new, but you have all your teammates to help you get integrated. And they'll bring you along to places and introduce you to their friends outside of volleyball, but you have that team.
yeah.
Um, as a coach, obviously it's different. I think you're coming into obviously as a player at the job, but as a coach, it's even more like you're doing all these extra things and this time management. But I really enjoyed getting to know who I am outside of volleyball, just spending time by myself and, you know, taking walks around the city every single day and meeting new people and going to coffee shops and just sitting there and people watching and,
Mm,
meeting new people and having conversations like that. I think that's really been exciting for me. And on the volleyball side of things, it's just, I love coaching and I loved, so I think getting a new experience in terms of just volleyball and bringing the American style of volleyball, I guess, to Europe. It's definitely there's different styles, and but I'm also learning along the way. And the guys have been the best part. I think the team
right.
has really welcomed me. The city has really welcomed me, and just getting to know them as people, and for them to get to know me as well.
Yeah. Well, you guys are just about to start your season. You just recently won your what preseason tournament, if you could call it that.
Yeah.
What are your expectations this year? What's the ceiling for Odense volleyball?
Well, I came into this team, and this team has won the league the last 3 years in a row. Um,
High
so
expectations.
high expectations, but also a level of you know just still growing this team. I think this team has won the last 3 years, but this team from last year, there's 7 new guys, so it's still a different team with a good few foundational pieces. Um, yeah, we just had our inaugural Super Cup, is what and they wanted to, as a competition based kind of thing before season started, to see some different teams, but also try some things out. And thankfully we were fortunate enough to win, and but definitely gives a level of confidence. I think was really nice to have before we start the season,
Right.
to see where we are and then what we can still work on. Obviously, it's not the ceiling, but it's still definitely nice to bring a trophy to the club. Uh, 1 month and a half over here already.
Right. Well, what's been the biggest difference? Obviously, coaching in college, you got to deal
Hmm.
with student athletes, right? You got to manage those both sides. But now you've moved over to the international, you've moved over to the pro. What
Hmm.
any pros, cons, anything you miss about college? Anything you prefer coaching international or coaching pro?
Mm. Yeah, that's a good question. There's definitely obviously a couple differences. I think in Denmark specifically, it could be pretty, well balanced with another job. So I think the difference is in college, obviously, set time practice every single day in the morning, and everyone's going to be there unless they're sick. Um, right here, it's some of my guys have jobs, and there's certain days where maybe they can't make a training, or and that's okay. Like again, it's mostly it's the two older 30-year olds that have outside jobs,
Wives and
but
kids and families.
yeah, all that kind of stuff. No, I think it's just being able to adapt to the situations over here, whether it be missing guys from training just because of life they have here, but also knowing that this is their job. I think
Yeah.
that's the fun part is it's a different level of, I don't want to say different level of effort put in, but it's just like this is pretty much live or die for so many of these guys, right? And I think the biggest difference is like they are here to stay and they're here to move on, right? They're here to move on to bigger and better leagues because this is what they love to do. And not saying NCAA isn't the same way. There's a lot of guys that want to go continue overseas, but at the same time, you're there to get an education first and foremost, right? So it's depends on the team, but not a lot of guys want to go play overseas. So they put in everything they have for the teams, for their team and their school, and enjoy the relationships. But I think it's just a different level of intensity and just
Yeah.
mindset of this is their job. And I'm still, you know, I think learning the ins and outs of just different styles, but I'm definitely bringing over the American style of my coaching philosophy over here, which may be getting some guys out of their comfort zone, which has been fun.
How are you doing that?
It definitely being at Grand Canyon, with Worley and Delamico and Coach Delamico is we were such a culture based, program, and it was all about the relationships that we had with those student athletes and those guys, that it made us so much better on the court when we had the respect for each other. We were, we had team bonding experiences where we were close, we knew each other, we trusted each other. And definitely just bringing that over here is like it's more so about that kind of stuff too,
Yeah.
instead of just, yes, this is our job, but we can still do other things to make us better and to bring us together. And I definitely saw it, this past weekend, and with just the collaborative way of this been going the last month and a half. And we've done some team bonding stuff, some team bonding trips out in the middle of nowhere, Denmark, and it was it was really fun. And I think the guys got to know each other a little bit more, so on a deeper level that maybe they haven't had before.
Yeah.
I made them all, but we got them all journals, and I made them in journaling, before every
Okay.
training, and uh, encouraging them to use it outside of just the practice times. And that's definitely gotten some guys out of the comfort zones for a little bit.
Oh,
But no, I journal every day, so it's they may have laughed at that here and there, but it's just something I'm bringing, and bringing a level of lightness, I guess,
yeah.
to what professional volleyball is.
Yeah. Gotta, get them into the American culture, right? You
A
got the
little bit,
American coach coming over. There was any, oh no.
yeah.
Right? But so what would you say is more I'm more pretty, beautiful. Middle of nowhere Phoenix or middle of nowhere Denmark?
Oh, middle of nowhere, Denmark for sure.
Yeah.
Um, you know what you're getting with middle of nowhere Phoenix, and middle of nowhere Denmark. It can be so different in different places, right?
Yeah.
Um, when we took that trip, it was middle of nowhere, but it was only like 45 minutes away. But it was, along the water, and it was just beautiful countryside. And that can be different when you go to like the west side of Denmark towards Copenhagen, where it's, you know, still middle of nowhere, but just different rural
Yeah.
ways of life. And but yeah, I'll definitely take this over
Phoenix.
for middle over Phoenix.
I bet the weather's a lot nicer and a lot more forgiving in Denmark as well.
For sure, it has been pretty nice the last month and a half. Very similar to Southern California, which is where I'm from. And but this morning, I think is the first day where it's starting to get really like getting colder. And this
Yeah.
morning was pretty cold,
Oh. So
so I'm getting
it's
used to that.
similar seasons. So we're what going into fall right now, maybe? Question mark.
Getting into fall right now, um, and it's definitely starting to get away from summer weather
Yeah.
where everyone's
Crisp.
just out and about.
Right.
Crisp. That's a really good
Yeah.
word for it.
No, so to go back to this whole mindset, this whole, this is your job. Um, what is missing from this NCAA development where you're seeing it, overseas, having these young guys that are in the system expecting to, it may be low level pro, but it's pro volleyball. Where
Mm-hmm.
over here in the NCAA or over here in America, NCAA, it's like, okay, I'm gonna play club in high school. I'm gonna play varsity. I'm gonna go and I'll play D3, D2, D1 volleyball, and that'll be it.
Right.
What's missing from the way we do things over here versus how it's set up in Denmark and really any,
Ooh.
you know, foreign
Yeah,
country?
that's a really good question. I think back to my time in Czech Republic as well, and the junior program that are affiliated with the professional teams. I think that's something that, like you touched on, like this is, the goal is obviously to go through the youth program to eventually get to that senior team. Um, it's definitely obviously hard to do that in the States on the men's side, especially obviously. But I think it's just how young they start, and they're
Yeah,
in all these sports programs like within their school, and then but the schools partner with professional clubs. So I think getting them introduced that young and to show it as a way that this can, you know, one not only like ignite a passion but provide a life,
yeah,
possibly, right? And I just think it's again, it's just the lack of awareness of what men's volleyball is back home. Um, Obviously, I think the Southern California has done a really good job of just getting it young athletes on the beach, and a lot of volleyball players obviously relocate back to Southern California.
yeah,
So it's already in their family, it's in their blood, and so it just kind of goes from there. But I think having schools kind of partner with just a whether it be a club team or whether it be a local university to bring in more youth clinics for free after during a practice time or something like that after school or whatever it may be. It's something a question that can it be answered? I don't know.
Mhm.
Um, I think the women's side is trying to do that a little bit with love and kind of I know their story a little bit, but um, yeah, I think it's getting them started really really young and without burnout. I think as well.
Right.
Obviously, if you start young, it can really be easy to burn out quickly. But Tuesday and Thursday mornings here we have practice and we have some youth kids that from local schools that just want to play, like come and train with our professional players as well for like morning practice.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so that's something as well because it makes them better. They're receiving serves from players that are serving over 100 kilometers an hour and they're 15 years old and they have to go to math class after this. It's but I think something like that, and obviously integrating youth in college is a question that I would like to obviously kind of see if we can answer at some point.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think with the VNL, with the World Championship specifically going on right
Hmm.
now, seeing how successful the USA is, obviously it's a small sample size, but you
Hmm.
got guys like Merrick McHenry, you got guys like Ethan
Hmm.
Champlin with the VNL, Andrew Rowan, Cooper Robinson that are, again, small sample size, but immediately 1 year, not even graduated from
Yeah.
college, and they're competing at a really high level against guys that, have been in that system. So
Hmm.
obviously, I feel like we're doing something right. I mean, maybe
Absolutely.
it's California. California's, the outlier where, yeah, you've got that
Fair.
culture just ingrained in everything they do, and you're just,
Hmm.
breeding absolute maniacs at that, in that sport. Um, but we're competing, and
A hundred percent.
it's been really great to see.
Yeah, no, it absolutely has. And yeah, watching those guys and being able to like, even players that I played against when I was in high school and club and college, and Jordan Ewart and Micah Ma'a. Um, it's so fun to watch now,
Yeah,
especially now guys I've coached against. All those guys you mentioned at UCLA when I was at GCU is it's really really impressive. And you're absolutely right. We're doing something right. Um, definitely definitely a gratitude towards our coaches. I think the coaches that we have in the states in the college level are really high level, and they really have really high level IQ. And with the NTDP, I think that's a really definitely the growth that we're
yeah,
starting to see um, with how big the NTDP training series is getting, and obviously that's a pipeline,
yeah,
and the growth in that it definitely has been really exciting to see and been a part of it. It's really cool to to also as coaches to learn from other coaches that you don't necessarily get to talk to every day or chat to a lot. So that's definitely a pipeline that's going to keep growing.
yeah, for sure. It's you watch it. I watched all of this season. I was at some of the biggest games, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I appreciated the skill that I was seeing on the court until I saw it when I went to Chicago for the VNL and I saw those guys compete against,
Mm-hmm.
some pretty major names. So it's just shocking to see that level of skill translate over to the pro side. And it's been a lot of fun to watch those guys play.
Yeah.
Um, any United States talent over in that league in Denmark? Are we seeing any familiar names, or are you guys
Oh,
just
there's a couple of
anti-American?
there's no, um, they might if they see this they might send me a little text afterwards if I don't remember all their names. But no, there's a couple of Americans, and it's nice. So we talked this past weekend after I saw them all, um, and just asking how they are,
Yeah,
and it's nice to see. Definitely, some guys from Charleston, some guys from St. Francis, from Long Island. So in terms of NCAA, it's the smaller schools, but
right.
it that's being alone. Like they're still over here playing professional volleyball, and
Yeah.
that also speaks to the volume of what we're doing. And the at the college level is still sending athletes over abroad, no matter where you go.
Yeah.
It's I think that's the coolest thing is that's my story as well. I was a D1 kid that went to JUCO and didn't ever step foot on a Division 1 court, but um, I've made it a pretty interesting life the past 10 years. So
Yeah. Well, no, that's the story of itself, right? You don't have to go to the UCLA's, the USC's,
mm-mm,
the Grand Canyons to go and be successful post that level. So,
absolutely.
we've got guys all over the country, all over the states,
Hmm.
competing at every level, doesn't matter, and still
Yeah,
succeeding. We've got guys going D3 and going uh international. I mean, there's
yeah.
talent all over the place. Um, well, Coach, I've got 10 minutes left on this Zoom because I don't
Okay.
have the pro. Any experiences, any stories that you have for us from your time in Denmark, from your time, you know, coaching Grand Canyon to coaching NAIA. What is something you want to leave with us?
I think man, there's a lot. No matter where I've been, is my biggest thing, and I've taken this from coaches in my past. Um, all the way from 949 Volleyball Club and Wave, to San Clemente High School, to UC Irvine Valley, especially. Irvine Valley is where I played for 2 seasons under legendary head coach Tom Pestolesi. He brought out a passion in me that I knew I love volleyball, but he reminded me about how truly special it is that we get to do what we do. Um, and he was the one that, like, he was one of the many coaches, but probably the most important to me, that cared for me more so as a person. And um, that's what I've taken. It's stuck with me. And everywhere I've coached and
Yeah.
everywhere that I've been and played, when I was playing professionally, all I cared about was obviously how, playing volleyball high level, and making sure I was getting better, but creating relationships with my teammates. I still talk with, a lot of my teammates from when I was playing in Czech, and I haven't seen them in 5 to 6 years. Um, it's the relationships that I will always remember. My time at Grand Canyon, I'm super happy for all those guys, um, that made that program what it was before I got there. It left a mark. To that team that unfortunately got cut. That was the recruiting class that freshman year. I was a part of that recruiting class, and I was really big part of, you know, getting those guys to Grand Canyon. And we still talk. And Braden Marquardt, who is going to be at Long Beach State, an
Yeah.
amazing, amazing young man, that texts me all the time. And, you know, he left a comment on my Instagram post a couple of days ago. He's just like, no one more deserving. And, I maybe had 6, 7 months of interaction with that kid, but in terms of recruiting. And then when I was still in Arizona and he was there, we always say hi, the biggest hug. Um, but that's always something that, I'm going to keep taking here. And now I have guys here that are, pulling me aside and saying, we really, really appreciate you and just the different style of that you're bringing to us. And, I think it may be an age thing for sure. Just having that close in age and just the empathy for what they're going through. And I wasn't there that long ago.
Yeah.
Um, so just those will always stick with me. And that's always what I'm going to bring to wherever I go, is the relationships outside of the court, and just those little times of traveling in the vans and the planes and just walking around campus, getting lunch with, the guys. It's the small little things that are the most important.
Yeah.
So,
Well, out of the Grand Canyon transfers, you got Brandon, you've got Travell Jordan at
mhm,
Hawaii, you've got a whole bunch at BYU.
a whole
Who
bunch.
who are you most looking forward to see in their new locations, and who are you obviously you're cheering for all of them, but
All of them.
who do you think's going to have the biggest impact at their new location?
Ooh. um I'm really excited. I think they're all going to make an impact, especially all those guys going to BYU. I think
Yeah.
Connor O'Daney was a diamond in the rough kind of guy that we got to Grand Canyon. He's turned into, like, he always has been, this amazing young man and this amazing player that just wanted to, like, be the best he can be. Um, and now he's going to kill it at BYU. I think, obviously, because I spent the most time with him, I'm really, really excited for Jackson Herr at Penn State. And I am, I think that was the best fit for him, possibly. Um, that coaching staff, and the I think this team this year and him being a part of that, whether he's on the court or not. Obviously, I hope he is, because he's an amazing athlete and he's an amazing setter, and he got to learn from Nick Slight for 2 years. I think I'm really excited for him just because of the person he is. And
Yeah.
he's going to bring
Yeah.
such a fun level of excitement to that program. Um, I think outside of that, you have Travell Jordan, who I coached in club. So I think that was probably my, like, the one recruit truly that I was like really made me happy.
Yeah.
They all made me happy. guys, if you listen to this, don't you know that you always have a special place in my heart. But I coached Travell for 2 years in club, and then he was so raw when he came in, and seeing him what he turned into, and staying humble. And I think adding him to an already amazing Hawaii team is going to be pretty special.
Yeah,
And seeing him at the World Championships this year for USA was super
it
fun. He got to,
was
and then working with
so
Tread,
good.
so it was um, that's going to be a really fun one to see, and I think he's going to thrive in that environment and that culture.
100%. That connection between Tread and Travell during the World Championships was something special to watch. And just
Absolutely,
in that system, I mean, he's definitely one of my top middle blockers, and he's only been in the NCAA for a couple years. It's going to be a lot of fun.
it is.
But Coach, I really appreciate you coming on. It's great talking to you. I mean, great picking your brain about volleyball in both, international and here in the States. And best of luck going forward, and we'll be following you guys. It's an
Yeah,
amazing story. So
well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, and yeah, always love talking volley and just life in general.